December 3rd. At this time, I'd like to ask Board Member Mr. Mike Kraus to lead us in the prayer and pledge. Please stand.
Father, we come to you tonight, and we are so thankful and so grateful for this season of the year that we're approaching, and for the little snowflakes and just the bright lights around town and our communities. And we just thank you for the season. And we thank you for our communities that have bonded together to form this corporation. And we just ask, Lord, that you would give this board wisdom and strength of mind and just allow us to make the good decisions for our corporation. We just thank you for all that you do for us, and we thank you for Christ. We ask these things and give thanks in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Crouch.
Yes, sir. My pleasure.
All right. Item 260, minutes of previous meeting.
Mr. President,
Mr. Cunningham.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the executive session, the public work session, and also the minutes with from our regular meeting with a caveat. In one of the sections that has our next board meeting for December 5th, and it's actually December 3rd. So just make that change in notation.
Okay.
We're on our way.
I'll second everything he said.
Have a motion by Mr. Cunningham and a second by Mr. Gaskin. Any comments or discussion regarding previous minutes? All right, not seeing any. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 261, 2019, 2020 board meeting dates. Mr. McKenzie.
Yes, in the board's packet that was provided for this meeting, there is a list of dates for board meetings to be extended through July 20th of 2020. Currently, you've already approved January 14th, 2019 through all of 2019. You've already approved that. But we've always had things where the way we handled these circumstances is we dealt with it month to month, month to month. If circumstances change, you can always vote a change in board meeting to accommodate that change in circumstance. For the most part, we have 2 meetings a month, first Monday and third Monday of each month. There are some exceptions to that. For example, you've already approved that the first meeting in January is January 14th rather than January 7th. The reason I recommended you do that is because that's the first day after Christmas vacation. A lot of the people in the business office and in the central office are off during that time period. So it just was more convenient for us at the central office to set that up. But we still wanted 2 meetings in January, so you've got back-to-back in January. Spring break is another one. April 8th is the first board meeting in April. And the reason is that April 1st is a part of spring break in 2019. So we moved that and separated the other meeting 2 weeks. So it's actually the 2nd and 4th Monday in April. But that is still an exception to the rule. The only month we only have 1 meeting typically has been July. That's because one of those meetings, the first meeting always is somewhere around the 4th. So we've been able to operate efficiently and successfully with 1 meeting in July. And so I would recommend to the board they continue with that into 2020. And the reason in September that it's not on the 2nd is that's Labor Day. So for budgeting purposes for Jill, to keep her happy, we still keep 2 meetings in September. And so that's the explanation for 2019, and a similar explanation exists for January 13th through July 20th. So if the board has any questions, I'd be happy to address those, but I would recommend that you approve those dates as presented.
I had a question, Tab,
Yeah.
on the swearing in of newly elected officials. Is there a time limit on that after, are we okay with that 14th then, Marty, on that?
We are.
Sure,
Okay, you check, okay.
We
all right.
are.
as long as tabs check, I have.
Yeah, I have
Okay,
checked.
okay.
We're good.
I didn't know if we had
For the
a set.
Yeah, I didn't
There
know. if-
is.
yeah, I
Okay,
didn't know if
but
it
we're
was
under that.
week or
I've
10
read
days,
two
or-
different dates. I've read January 15th as the
Okay.
date, and I've read January 31st.
Oh, January 15th
okay.
was the date I had in my head, so that's what I was wondering.
31st.
That's rare that we've had this opportunity where we haven't had a meeting in the first week of January. to
Sure.
apply
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
So,
All
But
right.
you gotta come ready to swear them in.
yeah,
Okay.
no problem.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. McKenzie?
That's all I have. Any other discussion about the calendar?
What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. President,
Mr. Miller?
I'll make a motion that we approve the board meeting dates as presented.
Motion by Mr. Miller, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Freitas. Now, any comments or discussion regarding next 2 year's calendars? All right, not seeing any. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 262, personnel. Mr. McKenzie.
Yes, we have the following personnel items for the board's consideration this evening. First of all, Noah King to be hired as the boys varsity assistant wrestling coach effective immediately. Tom Lees to be hired as a volunteer boys basketball coach effective immediately. And Kim Jones to be hired as an assistant girls basketball coach effective immediately. And so we would recommend approval of these personnel items as presented this evening.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. President,
Ms. Freitas.
I move that we accept the personnel report as presented.
I have a motion by Mrs. Freitas and a second by Mr. Gaskin. Any comments or discussion regarding personnel? All right, not seeing any. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 263, facilities report, Mr. McKenzie.
I have nothing to add this evening. Mr. Gosser, do you have anything under facilities? Any questions from the board about facilities?
Anybody?
I've had several comments, I don't know if this comes under facilities, about the flag
Yes.
at the old gym at the high school coming down out of the center of the ceiling. So that was a good idea and a good
Yep.
touch.
Yep, nice.
It was my understanding that the band paid for that. Is that true?
Yes, that's correct.
I just think that's amazing and wonderful.
It's a 2-year process, and they got their name out there, so they're very proud of it.
They
But-
should be.
We were
Yeah.
happy that the timing of it worked out that we could unveil it at Veterans Day.
I was there and didn't even see it. Well,
That is quiet.
Make a lot of noise.
I didn't know what they were talking
Sneak up on you.
about.
All right, if there is nothing else, we will move on. Item 264, legislative update. Mr. Cunningham.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I had Pam so graciously put in the upcoming 2019 session legislative deadlines. So if you want to look at that and you want to see they've already had Organization Day. Filing of bills begins January 8th, and then they end on the 14th. So after that, we'll start to see a list, and I'll start populating that to send out to you, and then try and keep up with all the changes. But if anybody ever wants to see how you can track those or look up particular bills on education or pull those, ISBA does a good job of keeping us informed too. But anyway, that's there for your edification if you want to look at it. That's all I have, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions for Chris? All right, item 265, corporate sponsors and donations. Mr. McKenzie.
Yes, we have one corporate sponsor for your consideration this evening. That's State Farm Insurance of Gas City in the amount of $500. We also have the following donations for your consideration this evening. The Gas City Kiwanis Club in the amount of $400 to be donated to DECA. And Dr. Bothwell and his wife Kathy have donated $250, $150 to to the tennis teams and $100 to Youth for Christ. And we would recommend approval of these corporate sponsors and the donations as presented this evening.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. What's the
Mr.
board's
President.
pleasure? Mr. Gaskin.
I make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation on corporate sponsors and donations as presented.
Have a motion by Mr. Gaskin. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Crouch. Any comments or discussion regarding corporate sponsors and donations? All right, not seeing any. All those in favor signify by aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 266, claims against corporation. Ms. Townley, please.
We have claims tonight totaling $1,463,778.82, and I ask that you grant me permission to pay those bills.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Cunningham.
I make a motion to approve the claims as presented.
Motion by Mr. Cunningham. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Smith. Any comments or discussion regarding claims? All right, not hearing any. All those in favor signify by aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 267, correspondence and other business. Mr. McKenzie.
Yes, first of all, the next school board meeting will be 2 weeks from tonight, December 17th. A reminder to the board and to the administrative team that we're having a Christmas dinner at 5:45 here. Don't forget that, put that in your calendar. And also to the board, a reminder that Kylie Harker Certain, I don't think they call it their Christmas party, but that way you know what it is. Their annual Christmas celebration and client appreciation night is December 13th. And so if you're interested in going with me and Leslie to that, let Mrs. Wilson know. And we are meeting here at the central office, and all that information's in your board packet. I wanted to talk to you about the calendar for next year. We're not voting on it, but I wanted to give you a copy of a calendar recommendation that I'm going to be discussing with the Mississinewa Teachers Association next week in formal discussions. This calendar is very much like the calendar that we're working under this year. In fact, I'm not sure that there's any difference other than a few numbers because of corresponding dates. So I'd like to open it up and get your thoughts on that. I'd like to be able to bring to you a recommendation 2 weeks from tonight. If not, at least one of the 2 meetings in January, and get that done and get that on the website. Any initial thoughts or? Yes.
I noticed the commencement is May 31st. That's about a week earlier than normal, isn't it?
It may seem like that because we've not had one in May for a long, long time, but it's the corresponding date with this year's.
Does that give them plenty of time to get, okay, that was my question.
Good question.
Any other questions regarding the future school calendar?
Don't forget to bring home the milk, Mr. Banks.
Thought I had it on.
Any other thoughts or comments on that? Anything about fall break? First time we had a week? Any constituency
The e-learning
comments?
went well last year, didn't it?
Pardon?
The e-learning day went very well, didn't it, last year? Or
This year?
Yeah,
I
this
thought
year.
it was excellent.
good,
We had very favorable reviews from the teachers.
yeah.
Any feedback that you got from teachers
Mine
or
was all
students
positive.
or?
Same here, I get the chance for the teachers to get together and do some team building and have a less stressful day. And anytime you get 4 days of one day away, I think they like that.
It was a good practice run for us
Yes.
too, in case we have to use it in the winter. Hopefully we won't, but just in case. And I think our staff and students are well prepared for that inevitability, if it, maybe that's not the right word. for the possibility of an e-learning day because of weather. I think we're ready for that, so if we need to. But we will always use our snow days first if they're available. Okay.
Anything else?
I'm going to take that as a consensus as okay on that, and we'll go into MTA discussion meetings next week, and hopefully that'll be a positive.
I guess the only question,
With art added, and winter athletes. So get a chance, going down Adams, either direction, check out that billboard. It's pretty impressive. So that's all I have. Mrs. Townsend, Mrs. Winter, you have anything?
I do have one thing. The auditors from the Indiana State Board of Accounts arrived 4 or 5 weeks ago. They've been camping out the last several weeks in the conference room, and they plan to be done around December 13th or 14th, and they asked that we schedule the exit conference, which is December 20th. Once I know the time, I'm thinking it will be in the afternoon. I'll send out an email invite to everyone, because you are all invited to attend that exit conference. They're auditing the books of July 1st, 2015 through June 30th of 2017, 2-year period, so I'll get more information, but if you would, put that on your calendars.
Yep. Very good.
That's
Any
all I
other-
had.
Okay.
Any principals have anything? That's all we have.
Any board members have any correspondence or anything else to discuss?
I might add one thing. It is the Christmas time. We're all trying to get in the Christmas spirit. And so all the school programs are starting to occur. I know from memory, it's hard to believe, but the 18th of December is the high school and middle school band, I believe, at the high school. The Christmas band program is December 18th. The Feast of Carols, the choir performance, Christmas choir performance that I vouch for every year. It's always better every year. It's just a great spiritual and uplifting seasonal Christmas experience. So if you've not gone, or if you've gone before, you know it's as good as I'm saying. Put that on your calendar. That's December 20th at Brookhaven, correct?
Brookhaven.
And I know Northview has some programs.
Our Northview Choir
This week?
performs at Northview Elementary tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And then our grade level programs are gonna be at the high school this year on Thursday. Second and third grade are gonna perform together at 5:30, and then fourth and fifth grade will perform together at 7. So it'll be new for us to be at the high school, but with parking and trying to get all those people in and out, you know, our parking lots only have one entrance in, one entrance out. So we're gonna go to the high school this year.
I
Have them room.
I know that was a recommendation from last year,
5:30
so
for second and third grade together, and then, it'll be 7 o'clock
7
for
o'clock
fourth
for
and
fourth
fifth.
and fifth.
She's doing a little bit different twist. She's got kind of the Christmas themed type of musical for each program. And, so there'll be some speaking parts, and we'll have 2 grade levels of kids up there, so it ought to be pretty
A lot of
good. There'll
kids.
be a lot of kids singing, so it'll be fun to watch.
what time's the high school, 18th? What time did you say it was?
Do you remember the band time? 7? Feast of Carols the same? Okay. I know I put you principals on the spot, and I should have told you that. I just, go ahead.
Westview's programs will be December 11, 12, and 13, with first grade being on December 11, kindergarten on the 12th, and preschool on the 13th. All 3 programs will run 2 separate programs at 5:45, and then again at 7, split the classes up. So and that'll be at Westview in the gym on those 3 days. So.
I've talked to Mr. Smith about maybe going to one night at the high school next year, so we're gonna try to do that, do all 3 levels at the high school next year. Just that parking, you can't beat the high school's access to the building, exiting and entering, so. Mrs. Eckstein, do you guys have a Christmas choir performance?
We do, and let me get you the date. I don't know that off the top of my head.
Oh, we'll come back to you, Mrs. Eckstein. That's all right. Anything else from the board?
Anybody from the board have anything to bring up? All righty. Item 268, motion for adjournment.
So move.
Mr. Crouch and Mrs. Freitas. All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, at this time,